Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie. I'm extremely excited and interested to hear what's going to be going on at this webinar. I am the co-president of the International Peace Bureau, and before I was involved with the International Peace Bureau, I was involved quite a lot in another part of Africa, another area of Africa, Central Africa, with the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so Africa, as any white person from Europe can tell you, once you get to know a piece of Africa, Africa becomes part of your heart, and you cannot really fully break away from it. So here I am. I'm filled with nostalgia to be in front of all of you right now, and really looking forward to hearing from you. This session this afternoon for us, yes, we're all on the more or less on the same time zone, is going to be a first episode, which is going to be followed by further appointments. I don't know whether the dates are already established or not, but at the end, I'm sure either Divine or Stephanie will tell us more about that at the end. Meanwhile, I understand that there has been a considerable amount of movement amongst the International Peace Bureau members in West Africa, and I am thrilled at that. And I understand, is everybody there? And I understand that it is really thanks to Ernest Gibson having been especially active in networking, really. And I would like Ernest now to tell us in a few words how he put together and what he has put together. You will notice that on the program, everyone is from the Bureau of African Peace. What is the Bureau of African Peace, Ernest?
Very well, thank you so much, Lisa, and I'm really grateful to have this platform. Okay, so let's translate and I move on.
Merci, merci de présenter le bureau de la paix. Allez-y.
Leah, are you done?
Yes, I should have started earlier, but I will just go on by then. Now.
Okay, so should I go on?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ernest Gibson Kodochi. I'm Ghanaian, resident in Ghana, West Africa.
Gibson, je suis Ghanéen.
Yeah, some years ago, I got involved into peace works, that is non-governmental work, charity works, trying to work to help a lot of people to get out. I found myself working with the Ghana United Nations Association, and I have worked a while for about 2 years as a volunteer. After that, I was promoted to become a youth coordinator. After that, then I was also promoted to become the director of operations.
I'm sorry, there is an issue. Like it doesn't work correctly, even though I selected the right channel.
Okay. I'm terribly sorry. Yeah. At a certain point, we could hear you translating into French, which was obviously not right. So there is something technically wrong. Can someone help Leah solve the problem?
It's difficult. Divine, can you get that? It's difficult when I'm not there to see your screen, Leah.
I'm really sorry about that.
We have
Who's the main host?
Me.
Is everything all right?
Wait a minute, Ernest. We're going to see if perhaps we can solve Leah's problem. Otherwise, it's very difficult for her.
Very well.
Okay, Leah, can you give it a go now and see if it works?
That's great. We can't hear you now, Leah. That's perfect. Ernest, try going on and explaining to us now how the Bureau of African Peace was founded.
Yes, very well. So the Bureau of African Peace came out of one organization called the Global Peace Association of Ghana. The Global Peace was established to promote the UN peace ideals. When we started operations, we joined the IPB, and we have been working with IPB for quite a while. And when we saw the way things are going and we look at the hindrances in Africa and all that, we decided to take a step up to move forward. But moving forward, we realized that going as an individual organization is going to be very difficult for us because we are talking about promoting peace in Africa and the world at large. So we started, we took a few steps, we tried, and it was getting so difficult for us. So we decided to get in touch with other state members within the West African sub-region. So I was working with my colleague, Mr. Joseph Donko, and together with him, we came together to start planning this whole thing. Then we decided to form a federation which will be an umbrella to cover the most of the non-profit civil society organizations in Africa. So in doing that, we decided we divided Africa into sub-regions. And with the sub-regions, we decided to start from the West African sub-region where we belong. So in doing that, one of our aims is to mobilize all these organizations to make sure we come together as one organization, speak the same language, sing the same song, to be able to buttress the peace in Africa, and also to stand as a pillar of IPB, to be able to promote IPB in Africa, because looking at the work IPB does, IPB is popularly known in Europe and other parts of the world. But when we talk of Africa, if you ask out of 50 organizations, I'm sure probably one out of the 50 will be able to tell you brief about IPB. And telling you about IPB, they only just give you something, that they are into disarmament and that's all. So looking at it from that perspective and the works IPB has been doing throughout the world, then I decided to just step up to make sure we get more into IPB and to bring IPB on board. So currently, with the organization we have formed in West Africa, we have 128 civil society peace organizations in West Africa, and we are trying to finalize the setup. Once we are done, then we move to East Africa. We do the same there. We go to Central Africa. At the end of the day, we cover the entire African sub-region. Then we will be firmly rooted in Africa to be able to buttress the peace process in Africa. So basically and briefly, this is how the Bureau of Africa came into existence, and we are looking forward to working to promote the works of IPB in Africa.
Thank you, Ernest. So that was very useful for all of us, I'm sure. And thank you for having sort of coordinated this entire networking experience, which is what we all care about enormously. Anna Sundström, welcome. Anna, as you all know and have seen from the program, I imagine, is the Secretary General of the Olof Palme International Center. This year, one of the most important projects of the International Peace Bureau has been the publication of the Olof Palme Common Security Report #2, as it were, 40 years later, which the International Peace Bureau did in partnership with the Olof Palme International Center and with the ITUC. It's I think, one of the most important works of political analysis and forward-looking political thinking the world has seen this year, and we sorely need to be able to think along the lines of common security once again. 40 years ago, It gave us the end of the Cold War. Now it's got to give us the end of the hot war. I'm sorry, that was a flippant remark. Anna, I'm sure, will be much more serious in her remarks and help us understand and move forward better. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And also, of course, thank you for inviting me to your meeting. I'm happy and honored to be here and to give you a little bit of an insight into the report. And I will share, of course, a little bit of background and also maybe a few remarks on where to go next, because, of course, the important thing of the report itself was launched a few weeks ago is what do we do now? We need to take it forward, of course. So as Liza already mentioned, this initiative was an initiative, actually it started last year. It was an initiative that the Olof Palme International Center took together with the IPB and the ITUC, the International Trade Union Confederation. And well, it was sort of born out of course, a feeling of a need to bring back the world to cooperation for security rather than militarization. And of course, we could not imagine when we started this project in June last year what the world would look like when we presented it. So this year, 2022, marks the 40th anniversary, one could say, of the Olof Palme, the Independent Commission on Disarmament and Security Issues that was led by Olof Palme. That commission presented its report in 1982. And of course, as Lisa also mentioned, this was at the height of the Cold War. And the report itself then developed this concept of common security, a very basic idea that nations and population can only feel safe when their counterparts feel safe. And therefore, we need to find security together in cooperation. And the concept itself is based on a number of principles, including that all nations have the right to security, that military force is not a legitimate means for resolving disputes between nations, and that reductions and limits on arms are necessary for mutual security. And as Lisa also mentioned, this actually, well, put an end to the Cold War, but also inflicted or affected the times thereafter. We have seen a couple of decades of well, the strengthening of the multilateral system, the implementation or the creation of organizations in Europe, for example, the OSCE, working around this basic notion of security, that my security cannot be built upon the insecurity of someone else. And of course, this goes for as well individuals as societies and nations. And now, of course, we face acute crisis again, many of them this time. We have a very sort of complex, intertwined set of crises that we face at the same time. So the idea that we had was to take the concept of common security and its basic principles and sort of look at the situation we now live in and to analyze the threats to our common security as of today. We also, of course, feel strongly that in times of acute crisis, there must be those who can look ahead and give a vision for a better future. And now, again, the relationships between superpowers of the world are at rock bottom. And now, as well as 40 years ago, the risk of a devastating nuclear war is high. And we also have, of course, an acute climate crisis. So in a way, we find ourselves again at a crossroads. We're faced with a choice between an existence based on confrontation and aggression, or one to be rooted in a transformative peace agenda and common security. So I mentioned already that what we did is we tried to look at the existential threats that we face: nuclear war, climate change, as well as, of course, pandemics. But this is also then, on top of this, we also have a mix of inequality, extremism, nationalism, gender violence, and shrinking democratic space. And how we respond to all of these threats will, of course, decide our very survival. And the concept of common security for us holds the necessary key for survival. So we took the concept of common security as a starting point, and this initiative has then analyzed the world we live in today and a few of these threats that I've already mentioned. And to our support, we've had a high-level advisory commission, 18 highly qualified and hugely experienced people from all over the world. And we've also, through a series of webinars, invited experts and scholars to give to share their knowledge. And I'd say actually that the collective knowledge of all of these individuals that have been involved in this project is what makes this initiative unique. We were very clear already from the beginning, saying that we will not sort of provide new research. We will not have like plenty of sub-reports or written material or anything like that, because all of that basically is already out there. So we wanted to draw upon the knowledge that these experts already have, and that all other institutes and reports and so on has already shown us, and rather to present a very short, concrete report. And this is what we've already also done. I think it's not even 20 pages, and we've also really tried hard to make it accessible. So when we took this initiative, as I mentioned, when we started this journey in June last year, we could not, of course, imagine the situation that we would find ourselves in when presenting this report. The first launch was made in Stockholm, and as you all know, the security situation in our part of the world with Russia's invasion of Ukraine has, of course, also affected the discussion around security in our part of the world. And of course, some may say that it's naive to even talk about peace, disarmament, and common security when the world is facing the risk of a new world war. But on the contrary, this time, now more than ever, we need a stronger discourse for peace. We know that the international order, which enables us to prevent wars, stop global warming, fight pandemics, tackle global challenges, well, it simply does not work well enough, and we have to fix it for our shared future. So the report builds upon the basic principles from the report in 1982, but we've also added 6 new principles, focusing on human security, the need to build trust between nations and peoples, we clearly state that without nuclear disarmament, limitations also on conventional weapons, and reduced military expenditure, we will not be able to find security together. And we need to strengthen global and regional cooperation, multilateralism. We need to focus much more on conflict prevention and dialogue. And we need also to restore international law and of course, respect for international law as well as responsible governance. In the report, we also present 25 concrete recommendations on then how to also make sure to achieve these principles or achieve a world order based on common security with its basic principles. The recommendations are, some of them are very concrete, others are more of visions and or maybe indications, steps forwards in the process of turning around what we've called the supertanker of war. Practical steps, visions for a better, safer world. They, of course, aim to motivate public opinion and have a positive impact on policy and decision makers about what is necessary and achievable. Well, we've also, as I started with saying it, now, of course, the most important thing is how do we take this onwards? So we work, of course, through our own respective networks to make the report and its recommendations known. We work to, well, lobby policymakers, both at national level, also international level. But I think that it's also an important task for all of us active in civil society to really talk about the need for a stronger peace discourse, talk about the need for a common security perspective, and to make this, the work and the report known also to our civil society groupings, so to say, to make sure that we are many that now take on the job of turning the supertanker of war. There is, of course, still much work to do to realize this vision of common security. But as I did on the launch here in Stockholm, let me end by also quoting another great leader, namely Nelson Mandela, who said that it's always seems impossible until it's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna. That was wonderful. And I love the idea that we've collaborated on the visions for a better, safer world. And we're very happy to extend and strengthen our networks, especially in analyzing these visions and sharing them with each other. Because by sharing new ideas and new perspectives are born, which are all positive and contribute to the end results that we hope we will be able to convey to the political leaders. But we know that civil society is capable of influencing our political leaders at all times. And the only thing we need to do, as Nelson Mandela showed us, is be determined and carry it forward, and eventually it'll be there. 27 years in jail spent Nelson Mandela without ever expressing any resignation to the impossibility of things. So that is the task for us all. Thank you again, Anna, and thank you, the Olof Palme International Center, for collaborating with IPB and ITUC on this common security report. I would now like to turn the floor over to Morris. A little bit difficult, your surname, Ikechukwu, is that right? And then there's Anyim. Can I just call you Anyim? Is that easier? Morris, would you like to take the floor now? May I just present him as the founder of Child and Environmental Development Association in the Gambia and International Relations Officer of the Bureau of African Peace. Morris, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity you gave me to deliver. Thank you once more for the opportunity given to me today. As you've said, my name is Maurice Ikechukwu Oanyim. I am a Human Security and Social Protection Specialist. They call it the Director for Foreign Affairs with the Bureau of African Peace. I highly appreciate the work of the partners working and ensuring peace in West Africa and beyond, who have equally been assisting West Africa to pursue and ensure common peace, common security, and peace to reign in their continent. I have been taking note from a long distance the work of IPB General Secretary and his team, which has been one of our strategic partners in advocating and calling on our leaders to reconsider some of their actions. They have been doing their best in mobilizing action at their level, ringing bell for the world to hear us out. Thanks to other partners present who have made contribution in one way or the other to ensure that common security is assured in West Africa in particular. Let me point out clear that insecurity is a growing threat around West Africa with serious implications for peace and security everywhere in the world. Our women and children bear the highest burden and effect of this act. Notably, we are seeing terrorism networks across Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and other countries within our continent. We have seen it stretching through the Sahel to the Lake Chad region, and presently, even when we talk of Congo and trade, and the trade continues. The question remains, who knows their next target, which might be next or next door. This is not just a regional or continental issue, but also a clear danger to global peace and security. My friends and colleagues, I want to tell you today and for your takeaway that this is a battle we are not winning based on the circumstances of how things are going, based on the approaches that our leaders are taking. We hear more and more destruction of our economic facilities and natural resources, and still it seems there is silence from those who has to come to our aid. Sometimes we in West Africa feel that they are happy with this as it gives them more opportunity for their own economic gains. Many factors have been suggested for this situation, ranging from greed, ethnic diversity, colonialism, but the solution to this insecurity in West Africa remains stubbornly out of reach. Despite that we are blessed with natural resources, our part of the world remains the poorest and the most politically unstable region in the world. We must all recognize that the impact of the serious crisis in Nigeria, Cameroon, Niger, even in Burkina Faso is growing and spreading throughout the region as weapons and higher machineries continually move across our borders. It is therefore time to support efforts to discuss the cause root of this crisis in West Africa through an exclusive dialogue and not sanction neither trade by barter system. Even with all these challenges, I still recognize and appreciate the effort of some partners. Precisely in Gambia, for instance, joint action by the African Union, the Economic Community of West African States, the United Nations and neighboring countries prevented a political crisis from spiraling and supported a peaceful and democratic transition 6 years ago. But still, this is not enough. It is a good sign to see, it is not a good sign to see military men in uniform patrolling the streets. This still shows us that we are living in fear. Africans need to be free from all these threats. In Nigeria, Boko Haram and its splinters factions are terrorizing and killing members of the local communities and attacking security forces, destroying private government facilities despite the effort of the multinational task force. Peace in Mali is also essential to a lasting security in the Sahel, despite the terrible attack within the different regions in the same country. Sustainable, inclusive development is an aim in itself. It is also the most effective way to address underlying causes of conflict, extremism, and terrorism around West Africa. Tackling poverty and inequality, strengthening state institutions and civil society, and promoting human rights are essential to preventing insecurity. Conflict and building resilience and building a better society for Africa. The situation is becoming more and more complex as we are not seeing solutions coming from the West. Rather, the insecurity continues to expand. I have realized that these are not problems that can be solved by strongly worded statements or sanctions alone. Let me sound it clear that it is not enough to send in peacekeepers or offer counterterrorism assistance. Many of these challenges are structural, springing from marginalization, poor governance, and from lack of opportunity of our young people. We need strong commitment from the West, Americans, and China to help address this issue, not only focusing on economic partnership and building diplomatic relationship that has no benefit or protect the people of West Africa. The traditional conception of common security is generally structured around the state, the defense and preservation of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Threats to the security of the states are therefore even as essentially emanated from a hostile external environment, defined in terms of other states that recognize no other authority beyond theirs. In this anonymous situation, containing such threats rely mainly on self-help and armed military might. It is time for us to remember that we need to call on partners to develop a framework on sustainable development for a peaceful and prosperous Africa with a strong focus on inclusivity, women's rights, gender equality, women's meaningful participation and leadership will strengthen our response and are essential to lasting peace. Africa's security landscape has undergone a dramatic transformation through the past 15 years. The continuous threat to African nations have become more diverse, diffuse, and complex. More funds are spent on security that affect the life of ordinary average person who does not know what caused all the insecurity in the system. In addition, to counter these challenges, we will need a new vision of engagement and partnership and reconception of our diplomacy and development framework. Today, it is indisputable that climate change has aggravated common security challenge in West Africa. Let us not forget that addressing the climate crisis is another vital preventive measure. Climate-related crises, including drought, flood, and changing rainfall pattern, often intersect with political, social, and economic factors. We must urgently take necessary action to prevent catastrophic consequences for sustainable development and security across West Africa, and step up support for the countries most affected. West African countries are not responsible for climate change, so it will be difficult, if not impossible, to impose one solution to climate adaptation and mitigation in West Africa. Finally, it is high time that we expand our relationship with other advanced nations to help us address the issue of insecurity in West Africa. Now, the question is, how do we work with them without them taking advantage of our situation? More importantly, how do we forge closer ties with African civil society, such as the Peace Bureau for African Peace, which will include the judges and journalists, legislators, entrepreneurs, and activists who will have a say in the state of common security in West Africa. In addition, what more can government do to extend both the state to state and the military to military engagement? With all these questions in my mind, I believe we have a better opportunity than today to look at these challenges with fresh eyes and table some new recommendations and ensure lasting and suitable peace and development in West Africa. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Morris. Thank you very much also for your optimistic outlook. If we all look at it with our fresh eyes, I'm sure you're right. We will find the best solutions for our common security. And we very much look forward to working with all of you. My next speaker is Diane Natasha Amandine Kaur. Kaur. You're muted, so you can't. Corée. Okay, Corée. And are you going to be speaking French then, Diane?
Yes, I will.
Or English?
Do my presentation in French.
Okay. Okay. Leah, thank you very much. We must all thank Leah, who's doing all this translating. Thank you.
Okay. Bonjour, moi je suis Diane, Diane Natacha Amandine. Je suis vice-présidente de l'association Être une femme. Hello. Hello. Are you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we're getting you. Only the translator we are not getting.
Okay, so I can begin.
On te suit très bien, tu peux y aller.
Ok, merci. D'accord, donc je disais que je suis Diane Natacha Amandine, je suis vice-présidente de l'association Être une femme, qui est une association qui milite pour les droits de la femme. Et nous faisons aussi la promotion de l'éducation dans le milieu estudiantin. On fait la promotion du leadership et lors des différentes journées qui sont dédiées à la femme, on essaie plus ou moins d'apporter notre soutien aux différentes filles et femmes qui traversent des situations difficiles. On prend en charge aussi également les personnes qui sont victimes de VBG. Nous avons focalisé nos actions sur les femmes et les jeunes filles. À côté de ça, moi, je gère le secteur de l'implication des femmes dans les questions de paix et sécurité. Voilà. Et donc, je travaille ça fait maintenant, on va dire, 1 an que je travaille avec M. Ernest Gibson et, dans le bureau africain de paix. Et là-bas, j'occupe le rôle de directrice adjointe chargée des affaires relatives aux enfants et à la femme. Et donc, pour cette communication, d'abord, je vous dis merci pour l'opportunité que vous me donnez de pouvoir participer à ce webinaire-là. Et pour cette communication-là, j'essaie de travailler sur sur l'importance de la sécurité. Et donc, je me permets de lire un peu ce que j'ai eu à faire. Donc, je commence par l'introduction. Depuis la fin de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, la plus importante des nombreuses préoccupations auxquelles le monde était confronté était la sécurité mondiale. Compte tenu des millions de morts dans le monde et des conséquences désastreuses qu'a causé ces 2 guerres-là par rapport à l'économie mondiale, les grandes puissances se sont senties obligées de trouver une solution pour ne plus que ce drame-là puisse arriver. Elles ont donc décidé de veiller à l'instauration, sinon de créer une sécurité commune afin d'assurer la sécurité des peuples et des nations. Ainsi, une sécurité commune faciliterait de garantir la paix dans le monde. Mais aujourd'hui, nous assistons à la violation de ce principe qui est de protéger la sécurité de la communauté par les bombardements russes sur l'Ukraine. Nous constatons une grande perte d'infrastructures, des pertes de vie humaine, des populations obligées de quitter leur patrie pour des terres inconnues. Que dit de l'Afrique? L'Afrique qui est soumise au terrorisme, aux conflits internes, aux crises sociopolitiques depuis des décennies. Nous remarquons ici que la sécurité commune n'est pas applicable en Afrique et surtout dans nos pays d'Afrique de l'Ouest. Ainsi, la sécurité telle que prédéfinie dans les textes de l'ONU n'est pas vue, sinon n'est pas matérialisée dans la sphère commune. Raison pour laquelle nous avons trouvé qu'il est nécessaire d'expliquer, sinon d'essayer de tenter de définir, selon notre conception, la sécurité commune et d'expliquer la nécessité de cette sécurité-là en mettant en lumière les effets de son absence dans le monde, dans un pays, dans une société, et de montrer les secteurs où la sécurité commune est très nécessaire. Il s'agira également de montrer le danger de ne pas respecter la sécurité commune et les conséquences lorsqu'il n'y a pas de sécurité. Et pour finir, essayer d'élaborer les objectifs de la sécurité commune. Et donc, en ce qui concerne le premier point, par rapport à la définition du concept de sécurité commune, nous avons dit comme ça que la sécurité commune peut être définie comme un état de tranquillité partagé par une communauté, par une collectivité, un état de paix dans lequel les gens prospèrent, les populations prospèrent et parviennent à accomplir toutes leurs tâches quotidiennes sans s'inquiéter d'une quelconque menace ou d'un quelconque danger qui pourrait mettre leur vie en péril. C'est un bien qui appartient à tous et dont la jouissance est collective. La sécurité commune a pour but de faire bénéficier une population d'une condition de protection et elle est favorable au développement d'un pays, d'une communauté. Cependant, elle nécessite un engagement de tous pour prévenir tout conflit qui pourrait entraver cette tranquillité-là. Et donc, dans le point 2, ici, nous avons essayé de montrer la nécessité d'une sécurité commune. Nous avons ici fait mention des problèmes qui aggravent, qui touchent directement à la sécurité commune. Et ces problèmes-là touchent également à la vie des populations, sinon à la condition de vie des populations. Et ça annule, si on veut dire, ça ruine, ça met en déroute, ça crée, en tout cas, ça envoie des effets négatifs aux efforts de développement mis en place par les États, notamment en Afrique subsaharienne, dans un contexte de terrorisme avec l'avancée des djihadistes dans plusieurs pays africains et les risques de nouvelles menaces, surtout dans le nord de la Côte d'Ivoire, qui est mon pays. La sécurité des populations est fortement affectée, ce qui revient à dire que la sécurité commune au niveau des nations africaines, ouest-africaines, au niveau de la Côte d'Ivoire, est fortement affectée. Et lorsque cette sécurité commune est affectée, nous remarquons qu'il y a une forte population qui se déplace et qui vient vers des zones moins à risque. Cela crée un bouleversement sur le point social, sur le plan économique, parce que ça nécessite beaucoup d'efforts. Et lorsque cette sécurité est également en danger, nous notons des violences sexuelles, des abus, des VBG. Nous notons aussi le non-respect de la dignité humaine. Il y a l'enlèvement des filles. On peut remarquer dans le nord, cela au nord du Nigeria. Donc, il est vraiment urgent de penser à une sécurité commune pour protéger des vies dans un premier temps, et pour garantir la sécurité des États dans un second temps. Aussi, il ne faut pas oublier de mentionner que la sécurité commune, le manque de sécurité commune, pardon, affecte aussi l'aspect sanitaire. Cela revient à dire quoi? Lorsqu'il y a l'avènement d'une nouvelle maladie, en l'occurrence la pandémie de Covid, cette maladie-là a mis le monde à genoux sur 2 ans, sur 2 années. Elle a ralenti l'activité économique de plusieurs pays. Et donc, avoir une sécurité commune revient aussi à se pencher sur le volet sanitaire, à trouver des stratégies afin que les vies des personnes, les santé des populations ne soient pas affectées, afin que les personnes ne soient pas exposées à des maladies qui risquent de raccourcir leur espérance de vie ou qui risquent de les conduire à la mort plutôt que prévu. Nous notons aussi que l'absence de la nécessité de la liberté, de la sécurité commune, la sécurité commune également la sécurité commune garantit le développement des communautés, quelles que soient les périodes. Au niveau 3, par rapport aux conséquences de l'absence de la sécurité commune dans les pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, l'absence de sécurité commune peut constituer une réelle difficulté pour le gouvernement en termes de protection des populations, des biens et des personnes, notamment dans les zones de conflit. Il y a une grande instabilité politique locale, la possibilité d'un soulèvement populaire, l'augmentation du taux de chômage, la croissance de la précarisation au niveau des populations à faible revenu, le manque d'infrastructures comme l'école, la santé et bien d'autres, l'installation de la corruption, la culture de la médiocrité. Et il y a beaucoup de conséquences qui ralentissent l'économie d'un pays lorsque la sécurité commune n'est pas protégée, lorsqu'il y a absence de sécurité commune dans un État, surtout dans nos États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, dans ces temps de crise, dans ce contexte de conflit entre l'Ukraine et la Russie. Et nous avons essayé de déterminer les domaines où la sécurité commune doit être mise en œuvre. Comme ça, dans un état de droit, nous avons dit que dans un état de droit, la sécurité commune doit être visible dans tous les secteurs, c'est-à-dire dans le domaine de la santé, dans le domaine de l'éducation, au niveau de la justice, au niveau de l'économie. Il faudrait qu'il y ait une sécurité commune pour garantir l'équilibre de la société, pour garantir l'équilibre des États. Il s'agit aussi d'assurer avant tout un service de qualité, un service public de qualité pour des populations. Lorsqu'on parle de sécurité commune, on veut qu'il y ait un service public de qualité. Il faut aussi apporter un soutien à la société civile.
Diane, please, can you come to the end? Can you wind up? It's been quite long already, and we need to leave some time for some questions. Vous m'avez compris? Est-ce que vous pouvez arriver à la conclusion maintenant, parce qu'il y a déjà 12 minutes que vous parlez?
Oui, j'ai fini.
Il y a encore des gens qui doivent parler.
J'ai fini. Et donc, les objectifs de sécurité, nous devons garantir la protection de la collectivité. Nous devons aussi mettre en place une équipe d'organisation de veille pour la protection de la sécurité commune. Et nous devons pour garantir cette sécurité-là, nous devons mettre en association tout le monde, les jeunes femmes, les organisations de la société civile, les chefs religieux, les chefs coutumiers pour garantir cette sécurité-là, afin que nous soyons sûrs que la sécurité commune ne soit pas entravée. C'est fini. Je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci, Jeanne. Merci beaucoup. Et je comprends que ce n'était pas facile de parler dans ce bref temps que nous avions à disposition. C'est là. C'est pareil pour tout le monde. Now, I'm going to immediately give the floor to Baroness Diane Ako-Adonio, who is from Ghana, and she is currently the Director of Operations of the Bureau of African Peace. So, Baroness, the floor is yours. And can I ask you, please, to be respectful of the time? I know you were all asked to speak for 8 minutes. So we will allow for 10, but not more than that, please, because we would like to allow some time for question and answer. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Baroness.
Thank you very much. I'll go straight to my presentation. Hello, everybody. And thank you. It's good to see you again, Rena and Stephanie. We had a little chat. And hello, Lisa and everybody. I'll go straight to my presentation. So it's a common security from the Ghana and African perspective. Common security is, or comprehensive security is a notion based on the assumption that no nation, community, people, or individuals can be secure without the other nation, community, or individuals. This system stems from the mindset and belief that says security is not having enemies that oppose a challenge, as opposed to having the ability to keep potential opponents and enemies in check by projecting the capacity to inflict pain and damage to them. In effect, it actually means that all nations, groups, societies, families, individuals, and peoples enjoy the same level of security and hence are not insecure and so do not seek to exert control over others. Common security, therefore, is an approach or method that transcends the typical traditional state-centered theory of state-centered federalism, which is a political theory that stresses the role of government on civil society. Common security also goes beyond military approach and includes economic, human, and environmental factors, as well as the subjective feeling of security and insecurity of individuals. In the 1980s, an independent commission on security issues and disarmament published a report on common security, a program for disarmament. This commission was led by the then Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, and at a time when Cold War tensions and possible nuclear war dominated the international agenda. I presume that at that time, Ghana and Africa thought it really had nothing much to do with our continent. 40 years from then, the whole world is caught up deep into a war and facing a possible nuclear war, pandemic, climatic change, leading to drought and famine. That's a threat to food security issues in Africa. And the current Russia and Ukraine war, adding to the world food and security crisis. Common security for Ghana and Africa has been achieved, can be achieved and be effective from good governance, democratically elect governments, a stable nation that assures its people food, shelter, education, clothing, freedom of speech and movement, good health, employment, and other basic necessities of life, as well as ensuring that its people enjoy peaceful, fulfilling, and rewarding lives. This can only be if the nations have a well-established system of good governance that has been tested over time and its mechanisms and modalities accepted in the following areas. 1, transparent electoral systems of installing and replacing democratic elect governments. 2, a genuine dynamic process of socioeconomic development. 3, upholding of fundamental human rights. 4, institutional structures for protecting its citizenry and sovereignty, where the armies must stay focused on their core principles and must resist political and incumbent government manipulations. 5, policies to foster good neighborliness for individuals, families, communities, and nations. And 6, trust and accountability from our public office holders. These elements constitute the palisades of democracy and good governance, which are building blocks for common security. They are also indications for national security and stability. Once the existence of any of these elements is disturbed or threatened, a situation of national insecurity and instability is created. Common security will thus not be attained if any of these elements are threatened in society. The result is a nation exploding into civil wars and anarchy, revolution and insurgencies. All these traits are evident along the west coast of Africa, if not the entire sub-region. Many of its nations, not excluding mine, are experiencing this howling wind of common insecurity. Governments, politicians, and leaders of political parties in Ghana and Africa must be sensitive to the notion of common security, issues and challenges. Lack of good governance and its net results like political exclusion and intolerance, ethnicity, greed, bribery and corruption, lack of transparency, injustice, nepotism or favoritism, abuse of incumbency, and the misuse of the army against their oppositions, party faithfuls, and innocent civilians. The winner takes it all attitude and the we and they syndrome, not forgetting mudsliding and harassment of people with dissenting views. These and many affect our common security, which is needed now more than ever. Unfortunately, myopic politicians and public officers keep repeating past mistakes with incredible impunity. The intense and continual failure of governments to address injustices in society, coupled with unhealthy inter-party rivalry, and the extreme gap between the few wealthy and powerful men and women at the top and majority of people living in abject poverty have created tensions that eventually result in armed conflicts and coups d'etats, revolutions, upsurge of violence have all been impediments to creating common security in Ghana and Africa, i.e., countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, and some regions of my own beloved country, Ghana, have had scars from these situations. As for the intervention of institutions like the IEA and the Netherlands Institution of Multi-Party Democracy. In conclusion, capacity building is key in our nation that are relevant to strengthening our socioeconomic systems and organizations, accountability and civic education in order to entrench the norms and practices that support and promote common security. Partisanship should not be permitted to becloud the judgment of the executives in making appointments to state and public institutions, i.e. particularly the army and police. It is very important these institutions are de-ethnicized and depoliticized to ensure that their composition is a broad reflection of regional or ethnic balance with the avoidance of domination by any particular political or ethnic group. Democratically elected governments must not compromise good governance, and they must strive to drastically reduce poverty, hunger, disease, social injustices, ignorance, which remain a threat to common security, to ensure people live in peace and fulfillment. Finally, I wish to remind Ghana and the leaders of Africa that a hungry man is an angry and violent man. If the people are poor and hungry in the midst of their leaders and people and public officers flaunting their wealth with impunity, then common insecurity is inevitable. Let us share the wealth of our nations to reduce poverty, hunger, disease. Let's create an enabling environment for jobs and small-scale businesses, build our economies with good governance practices to promote common security, peace, and tolerance. Ubuntu, as in South Africa, means I am because we are. The leaders of Ghana and Africa must not lose sight of the fact that they are because the citizens and grassroots are. Thank you very much, IPB, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Baroness. Thank you, Baroness. Ubuntu has always been my favorite expression, and the symbol of what we really want to achieve in our world perspectives. Ubuntu is what we need to learn from Africa. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Alas, I have to leave you because I have to rush off somewhere else. We're all rushing. Anna was rushing back from somewhere. I have to be off somewhere else. But Divine, I understand, is going to take over now to handle the little time that is left for the question and answers. And then we will have some concluding remarks by Ernest Gibson. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ernest, for organizing this with Stephanie and everybody else and Divine and so on. And it has been really very interesting for me. And I hope to be with you again soon. Bye-bye.
Awards in less than 5 years, or within 5 years, of our Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. It was quite amazing. So now, if you have any questions, feel very free to ask. You can ask the questions verbally here, or preferably you write it in the chat, and then I will bring it up. Yeah, so I think that's the next step, and I expect those who have questions to follow the order that we talk about. Like, you can ask directly or send it through the chat. So thank you. That's it.
Yeah, I have one question. So maybe toward this one might be best suited for Baroness. So just wondering, like since the pandemic, like, and also, you know, now with the war in Ukraine, and even before either of these two things, there was the climate crisis, which has been ongoing for a long time. So maybe could you talk about some of the impacts of how, like, the biggest impacts this has had on maybe supply chains between Europe and also the US and other parts of the world and Africa? Because I found it interesting that you were saying that for a long time Europe didn't think that they had anything to do with the continent of Africa, and then all these major existential global crises happened. And it's highlighted a lot of the links. So would you be able to talk a bit about what some of those impacts have been?
Yeah, hi. I didn't quite hear your question, but I think you effectively climate change. So,
yeah, that's
Africa.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this it's actually a global issue. It's a global crisis, and Africa has been in this without knowing. You know, we have a Sahel already. Let me just narrow one thing down to Ghana. For the past few months, we have been actually deep into a depletion of our water body because of climate change. And then also a lack of potable water now. There is a situation that is being created. And we think that in the next 2 years, Ghana may have to import water. Can you believe this? And I am sure likewise other African countries, but maybe they are not looking deep into the effects of the climate change and things that are not doing to address afforestation, the continuous depleting of our forests, and you know, putting up more proper demarcations for our forest regions and protections of our water body. It is just unbelievable. But we are driving gradually into that crisis for Ghana, and I know for many other countries. Worldwide, yes, the weather is now very unpredictable. I don't know what the meteorology is doing now, but there is so much going on. And I think that is also what is even creating pandemics as well. And in Africa, we still haven't gotten any proper defined route to curing and eradicating malaria. It is still endemic, and we are fighting it because of all these climate changes and issues that are coming. So yes, Africa thought there was nothing but wrong, disarmament, right? But now there are pockets also of now a lot of terrorists, you know, even within are coming up within the continent, and people have even started manufacturing guns and selling them. Yes, so there are issues that must be, and a hungry person with a gun, I mean, you don't want to know. Yeah. I hope I've answered the question, though I didn't hear it clearly.
No, you did. That was a really great answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, are there any more questions? If not, then I think we move next to Ernest, right?
Yeah, maybe just give, yeah, if there is really no more questions, maybe you have something for a particular speaker, but if not, then yeah, we can move on to Ernest's final remarks.
Okay. Yeah. So, Ernest, the floor is yours now. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Baroness has a question or another person. She raised her hand. Baroness, are you there?
Yeah, mine is actually just maybe a little word for IPD and Bureau of African Peace, that I think it's time that we make our impact felt. I feel that we need to double up and step up a little bit and try to really get down to work in the grassroots. We need to reach out to the people and not and still be in our little offices and communities. But it is time to really lift up the flag of peace and help the Africans and our leaders and our people, especially, to know common security, to see that it is necessary. We need it now. And I think with the help of IPB and other international bodies, we should be able to lift the flag up high. This is the time. It is gradually coming when we will say we should have started maybe 10 years earlier. Thank you.
Okay, so Baroness, thank you so much for your input, and I want to thank everyone for your support and coming on board to help us get through this successful. Most often, I want to thank the IPB and the Executive Director, Raina Brown, and Stephanie for supporting me to get this through. And also, I want to thank my fellow brother, Rashid from Nigeria. He has been supporting me through this from the beginning through to this level. And I'm hoping that from our next webinars, we are going to do better and keep moving on. And I also thank our speakers, Mr. Morris, Baroness, Natasha. I thank you all. And we really appreciate all the work you are doing. And as we keep on, we hope that in the future, we will be able to create a conducive environment in Africa and other parts of the world. And finally, I want to thank everyone, and I really appreciate everybody, especially our interpreter here. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to get through, because Africa is basically made of the Anglophones and the Francophones, and without any interpretation, we are unable to tilt through to the other part of Africa. We really appreciate you, and we hope you stay with us for long as we make progress. So I just want to appreciate you all for everything you have done supporting us through this. Our next webinar is going to be on the 7th of June, of which I hope you would all be there to also participate and also support us through it. And gradually we would be able to cover the entire African continent and also make IPB's presence in Africa well felt, and create a conducive environment in Africa and the world as well. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us, and we really appreciate it. God bless you all.
Wow. Thank you very much, Ernest, for that closing remark. So before we close, I would like to add a few words. So this was a very interesting program. This is actually the first time that I'm participating in this, and that's probably because I just joined IPB. It was so interesting, and it's. I would just like to add that next time we should be able to bring up analysis of situations where change has been effective. What am I saying? We shouldn't only keep analyzing. There is abuse of human rights, there is insecurity, there is corruption, there is less accountability. What are we doing in the field? Just like Mrs. Baroness asked, is supposed to be our concern. So I would like that as we move forward, we should be able to engage more and more African youths to be out there in the field, so that when we are giving a report outside, we should be able to give a positive report, a report that compares a positive situation with a negative one. So we can tell people to go more with the positive one. We cannot continue down this path of analyzing situations over and over and over and over. This has been done for the past centuries, and we can't continue only analyzing, right? Because that's essentially what has been taking place. We need to go to the field and address situations and then come back and give a feedback, so that at the end we can produce or say provide results. And when people see results, they are motivated and triggered to react. So I'm glad to be part of this team, and my wish is that we are able to expand beyond what we are now. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. Just to add up a brief before we leave. Yeah, I really appreciate your comments, and this is just the beginning. We are coming in to make progress in Africa and the world. And starting it, we first of all need to identify the problems on the ground. And we also need to identify the targeted audience that we're going to be working with. So in moving forward, this calls for collaboration with other international organizations for support to make sure we are able to accomplish our missions. And most of this comes with financial constraints, which is a problem most of these organizations and individuals are facing, which is why we created this umbrella, the Bureau of African Peace, to bring all of them under it. We are able to think together and do one common thing to make sure we are able to see ourselves through. So I really appreciate your comment, but just to say, we are in progress and we are making moves to get on the grassroots to go and start programs and projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I believe we have come to the end, except someone has any last minute comment to add, but yeah, I think we can call it a day here now. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you next week.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I highly appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Ernest. Thanks, colleagues. See you next.